The Las Vegas Raiders have officially hired Pete Carroll as their new head coach, and today we're going to break down what he brings to the team. This is an exciting move. Pete Carroll is a proven winner in the NFL, and his track record speaks for itself. The Raiders have been searching for a clear direction on offense, and hiring Carroll could be the first step toward real progress. According to Adam Schefter, Pete Carroll has signed a 3-year deal with the Raiders, including a 4th-year team option. That means he could lead the team for up to 4 years, giving them much-needed stability. Let's talk about what makes Pete Carroll special. When he joined the Seattle Seahawks, they struggled for a couple of years. But then they drafted Russell Wilson, stuck with him, and by Carroll's 3rd year, the team was in the playoffs. By year 4, they won the Super Bowl. During his time with the Seahawks, Carroll also built one of the best defenses in the league, holding the top spot for several years, something that's incredibly rare in the NFL. Carroll is also great at spotting coaching talent. He hired some of the best in the business, like Dan Quinn, Robert Saleh, and Steve Sarkisian, who have all gone on to major success. This shows that he knows how to build a strong team, not just on the field, but also on the sidelines. For the Raiders, this hire is a game-changer. The team hasn't had much success in the last 20 years, barely making the playoffs and not winning a single playoff game in that time. But with Pete Carroll at the helm, things are looking up. In the next few years, we could see the Raiders not only making the playoffs but also playing meaningful games in December and January. It's an exciting time for Raiders fans. Over the past 5 or 6 years, the Raiders have rarely played meaningful games. That's why hiring Pete Carroll is so exciting. He's the kind of coach who can turn things around. Carroll has a long history of winning, transforming struggling teams into contenders, and proving himself as one of the NFL's best. Now, some people are concerned about his age. At 73, he's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, coaches in the NFL right now. But honestly, age is just a number. Pete Carroll is still sharp and effective. Just last year, he proved his coaching skills by helping Geno Smith revive his NFL career. That's a big deal, and something worth paying attention to. Here's the thing. The Raiders don't have a solid quarterback right now. Let's be real. This has been a major issue for the team. It's also one of the reasons some top coaching candidates like Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen turned down the Raiders' job. They didn't want to take on a team without a reliable quarterback. Even last year, when Antonio Pierce was leading the team, the Raiders struggled to attract top coordinators for the same reason. But Pete Carroll is different. He's the kind of coach who sees challenges as opportunities. He's confident that he can find or develop the right quarterback to lead the team. Carroll has a knack for working with players that other teams have written off. Look at what he did with Geno Smith, or how he helped Russell Wilson build an incredible career. He knows how to take overlooked talent and turn it into success. Some people credit Dave Canales, now head coach of the Carolina Panthers, for part of that success. But at the end of the day, Pete Carroll has consistently proven he knows how to build quarterbacks and teams. That's exactly the kind of leadership the Raiders need right now. Back when Geno Smith joined the Seahawks, Pete Carroll was the head coach and Dave Canales was the quarterback's coach. While some people credit Canales for helping Smith revive his career, I think the real credit belongs to Carroll. At the end of the day, it's the head coach and play caller who have the biggest impact on getting a quarterback back on track. The role of a quarterback's coach varies from team to team. It's more of a title than a fixed position. What stands out about Pete Carroll is his ability to take a player like Geno Smith, who most teams had given up on, and help him succeed. That tells me Carroll has the skill to find and mold a quarterback for the Raiders. He's done it before, and there's no reason he can't do it again. We also need to remember that Pete Carroll is a defensive mastermind. He built the Legion of Boom, leading the Seahawks to have the #1 defense in the NFL for 4 straight years. Even outside of that streak, his defenses were consistently in the top 10. Under Carroll, the Seahawks dominated defensively for years. In recent seasons, the Seahawks shifted their focus to offense, investing heavily in offensive players and contracts. As a result, the defense got younger and less dominant. But even then, the offense, led by Geno Smith, carried the team. This proves Carroll's ability to adapt and succeed, whether the focus is defense or offense. For the Raiders, Carroll has the potential to work with quarterbacks like Jameis Winston, Justin Fields, Gardner Minshew, or Aidan O'Connell. Can he help Winston reduce turnovers? Can he mold Fields into the quarterback he wants? Can he trust Minshew or McConnell to lead the team? If anyone can figure it out, it's Pete Carroll. Carroll also has a great eye for hiring talented coordinators. Whether it's someone like Clint Kubiak or Bobby Slowick, Carroll knows how to build a strong coaching staff. For the Raiders, that's a huge advantage. Pete Carroll is the kind of coach who can find talent, whether it's players or assistants, and mold them into winners. He'll bring in the right people to help the next quarterback and build a successful program for the Raiders. That's the most exciting thing about Carroll, his proven ability to create a winning culture. Now, some people think hiring Carroll is a bad decision, but I completely disagree. He's a coach with a winning track record, and that's exactly what the Raiders need. Let's be honest, the team hasn't had much success or consistency for the past 20 years. It's been a revolving door of coaches and general managers. But with Carroll, things can change. Even if the Raiders struggle in his first 2 seasons, winning just 2 games each year, I believe Carroll will still get his 3rd year to coach. The team needs to break the pattern of firing coaches after just 1 or 2 seasons. Carroll gives the Raiders a chance to build stability and shift the narrative about the team's lack of long-term planning. John Spytek, the Raiders' new general manager, also values consistency. In an interview, he talked about how important it is to have a head coach, scouting staff, and front office that can stay in place for several years. If you didn't catch my breakdown of his interview yesterday, be sure to check it out. Spytek's approach is clear. Success starts with stability, and hiring Pete Carroll is a big step in the right direction for the coaching side of things. With Spytek and Tom Brady now involved in the front office, the Raiders are laying a foundation for a more stable future. But one critical piece of the puzzle still needs to fall into place: finding the right quarterback. That's the next big challenge for the Raiders. While finding the right quarterback will be Pete Carroll's top priority, the Raiders have other key positions to address. The running back situation needs clarity, and the offensive line will play a huge role in the team's success moving forward. On the defensive side, the Raiders already have a solid foundation with players like Max Crosby and Christian Gonzalez. I trust Carroll to make smart decisions here, whether it's bringing back key players or replacing those who leave. Defense isn't a major concern for me under Carroll's leadership. However, one critical piece missing on offense is a true number 1 wide receiver. Carroll has a history of drafting great receivers like DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith-Njigba during his time with the Seahawks. I'm confident he'll want to follow the same strategy with the Raiders. While the team already has good options like Jacoby Myers as a reliable number 2 and Trey Tucker as a slot receiver, they still lack that dominant X receiver who can transform the offense. Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer are excellent tight ends, but a top-tier wideout is essential. The 6th overall pick in the draft should be used to address this. Securing a star wide receiver is far more important than spending a high pick on a running back. Running backs can often be found in the 2nd or 3rd rounds, and Pete Carroll has proven this before. In Seattle, he drafted running backs in consecutive years, one in the 3rd round and another in the 2nd. It worked well, and there's no reason he can't replicate that with the Raiders. One area of concern, though, is Carroll's history with offensive lines. During his time with the Seahawks, he didn't prioritize investing heavily in the O-line, which sometimes held the team back. For the Raiders, this is an area that must be handled carefully to ensure the offense has the support it needs. One of my concerns with Pete Carroll is how he handled the offensive line during his time with the Seahawks. Over the last 2 years, their offensive line really struggled. Just a few years ago, they had a dominant line with players like Gabe Jackson at right guard and Damian Lewis at left guard. They even drafted Charles Cross, a great left tackle, with the 7th overall pick and found a steal in Abraham Lucas in the 3rd round. Despite all this talent, injuries and roster changes caused their O-line to fall apart. They let some key players go, and it became a big issue. For the Raiders, fixing the offensive line has to be a priority. While some people think the Raiders already have a good O-line, I strongly disagree. The line needs serious upgrades. We're not even sure if DJ Glaze is the long-term answer at right tackle. At the very least, the team needs to bring in one new guard this year, ideally someone who's tough and can dominate the line of scrimmage. Paris Johnson is a promising talent, but we need more strength and physicality, especially at the guard position. Pete Carroll and GM John Spytek must focus on drafting or signing players who can bring that kind of power up front. John Spytek, in a recent interview, emphasized valuing bigger offensive linemen. For example, their center was 6 feet 5 inches, and one of their guards was 6 feet 4 inches. That size and strength could make a huge difference for the Raiders, and I hope Carroll leans into the strategy to fix the line. Overall, I like the Pete Carroll hire. Sure, some critics point to his age or the fact that he's not an offensive play caller, but we need to keep things in perspective. Coaches like Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen didn't take the Raiders' job because we lacked a quarterback and a clear direction. It's the same issue that hurt the Bears a few years ago when they were looking for a head coach. Back in 2020 to 2021, guys like Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni turned down interviews with the Bears because of their unstable leadership and lack of a long-term plan. With Pete Carroll, the Raiders are finally starting to build a solid foundation. We just need to give him the time and resources to make it work. The Raiders are building for the future, much like how the Bears approached their rebuild under general manager Ryan Poles. The Bears took their time, cutting players like Roquan Smith, trading away offensive linemen, and focusing on drafting young talent. They hit on several key picks in the first and second rounds, which has set them up for long-term success. Now, with a young quarterback and a great head coach, the Bears have a solid foundation. There's a good chance they'll be playoff contenders for the next decade. For the Raiders, the goal is to follow a similar path with Pete Carroll at the helm. Even if we don't win a Super Bowl in the next 3 or 4 years, it's crucial that we're on the right track by then. Ideally, we'll have a solid quarterback, whether it's a rookie or a veteran who's developed over time. If Pete Carroll doesn't work out, at least he can help establish a strong foundation. At that point, we could transition to a younger, promising coach like Clint Kubiak, Bobby Slowick, or someone else who's ready to lead the team. I've always believed that the Raiders can become a consistent winning team, and Pete Carroll is a great hire to guide us in that direction. To be honest, I never supported Antonio Pierce as the head coach. While I think he's a great coach with potential, he had no proven track record as a head coach, which is risky. Sure, unproven coaches sometimes succeed, but most of the time they don't. With Pete Carroll, we don't have to worry about that. He's already proven he can win without being the one calling plays. He knows how to build a winning culture just like Jim Harbaugh. Look at what Harbaugh did with the Chargers, making the playoffs in his first year. I think Pete Carroll can do the same for us, setting the foundation for success. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.